Ever wonder if medieval peasants gossiped like we do? Did they obsess over their neighbor's business? Could one rumor destroy someone's life in the 1200s? Number 7. When whispers controlled your fate. Picture this: you're living in a tiny village in 1250. No privacy, no escape. Every single person knows your business. In medieval villages, gossip wasn't just entertainment. It was the social media, news network, and justice system all rolled into one. The blacksmith caught stealing from the miller. Everyone knew by sundown. The baker's wife seen walking alone with the apprentice tanner. The whispers spread faster than the plague. In these close-knit communities of maybe 50 to 200 people, you couldn't hide anything. Houses were packed together, walls were thin, and everyone worked, ate, and celebrated in shared spaces. Privacy was basically non-existent. Even your bedroom might be shared with livestock during winter. Medieval villages operated on something historians call face-to-face society. This meant your reputation was literally everything. Without it, you couldn't borrow tools, get help during harvest, or find anyone willing to marry your children. One villager recorded in court documents from 1320 said something that perfectly captures this: "A man without good fame is dead to the world." Harsh but totally accurate for medieval life. When Thomas Garland from the English village of Alruas was accused of stealing grain in 1395, the actual theft mattered less than what his neighbors thought of him. Court records show 12 villagers testified about his character. Not about whether they saw him steal, but about whether he seemed like the kind of person who would. That's how important reputation was. Village gossip networks were surprisingly sophisticated. Women often controlled these information highways while washing clothes at streams or working together spinning wool. Men exchanged news during plowing or at the local alehouse. Children carried messages between households. Nothing stayed secret for long. Number 6. The power players of medieval gossip. Every village had its gossip superstars. The miller knew everyone's business because all villagers had to bring their grain to him. The alewife who brewed and sold beer heard drunk confessions. The priest collected secrets during confession, though technically forbidden from sharing them. And the Lord's servants gathered intel from both peasants and nobility. But perhaps the most powerful gossips were older women. Parish records from across Europe show they were often called as witnesses in disputes precisely because they knew everything about everyone. In 1289, when a marriage legitimacy case came before a church court in York, 4 elderly women testified about events from decades earlier with remarkable detail. They remembered who slept where, who said what, and exactly which Sunday the couple in question had first announced their betrothal. These village gossip networks weren't just for fun, they served practical purposes. Before modern insurance or welfare, villagers depended on community support during crises. Gossip helped identify who deserved help and who didn't. When lightning struck Hermann Mueller's barn in a German village in 1342, neighbors immediately helped rebuild it because he had a reputation for generosity. When the same happened to Jakob Stein a year later, help came more slowly because he was known for being stingy with his own assistants. Some clever villagers weaponized gossip. Court records from 1305 show how Agnes Taylor from Cottingham spread rumors that her neighbor's cow was sick after the neighbor refused to lend her a cooking pot. Agnes didn't directly damage the cow, she damaged its reputation, making it unsellable. The neighbor had to take Agnes to court to clear her cow's name. Number 5. Shame medieval style. Today we worry about being canceled on Twitter. Medieval villagers feared something more concrete: public shaming rituals. These ceremonies weren't just embarrassing, they could permanently destroy someone's ability to function in society. The charivari was particularly dreaded. Village youth would gather outside an offender's home with pots, pans, and makeshift instruments to create a horrible racket. Imagine trying to sleep while 20 people bang drums and scream insults outside your window. Records from a French village in 1367 describe a charivari that lasted 3 nights until the target, a widower who had remarried too quickly after his wife's death, paid the crowd to leave him alone. Women caught gossiping maliciously sometimes faced the scold's bridle, a metal cage locked over the head with a piece that pressed down on the tongue. In 1384, Marjorie Thatcher of Bristol was forced to wear one while being paraded around the marketplace for spreading rumors about the mayor's wife. The physical pain was probably less significant than the humiliation. The cucking stool awaited those who repeatedly disturbed village harmony with gossip. This chair-like contraption was used to repeatedly dunk the offender in the village pond or river. Records from Norwich show it was used 14 times between 1286 and 1325. Surviving accounts suggest the dunking was secondary to the public procession to the water, where the whole village could jeer. Most effective was simple exclusion. When Robert Fletcher of Downham was caught spreading lies about his neighbors stealing church donations, no one would speak to him for months. Court records show he eventually left the village entirely, unable to conduct the basic interactions necessary for survival. Number 4. When gossip became law. Perhaps most surprising to modern readers, medieval gossip often had legal standing. Village courts, known as manor courts, regularly used common knowledge and reputation as evidence. The trial by gossip happened like this. Officials would gather 12 respectable villagers, the ancestors of our modern jury, and ask what they'd heard about a dispute. If they overwhelmingly believed John had stolen William's sheep, that collective opinion could be enough for a conviction, even without eyewitnesses or physical evidence. Records from the Manor Court of Lakenheath in 1316 show that when Margaret Cooper was accused of brewing ale without paying the required tax, the case was decided based on what neighbors reported hearing during previous months. Several mentioned the distinctive smell of brewing from her home and seeing unusually many visitors on certain evenings. No physical evidence was presented, just the collective observation network of the village. Church courts, which handled moral offenses and marriage disputes, relied even more heavily on reputation evidence. When deciding if a couple was legally married, crucial for determining inheritance, judges often asked villagers about the couple's public behavior and reputation rather than seeking documented proof. Perhaps most remarkable was the institution of compurgation, where accused individuals could clear their names by finding a specific number of neighbors willing to swear to their good character. In 1295, when Thomas Baker of Ramsey was accused of theft, he escaped punishment by producing 6 men who swore he was honest. The process had nothing to do with the specific accusation, just whether the community vouched for him. This system created fascinating feedback loops. Those already with good reputations found it easier to defend themselves, while those with poor standing struggled to find compurgators willing to support them. Bad reputation could literally become a legal liability. Number 3. Gossip as social control. Village gossip wasn't just idle chatter, it was the primary system for enforcing social norms. Without professional police or extensive government, medieval communities largely policed themselves through reputation management and gossip networks. The threat of becoming gossip fodder kept people in line. Documents from the village of Helzowen reveal how in 1293 Alice Miller repaid a debt to Thomas Cook after neighbors began talking about her failure to do so. As recorded in court proceedings, she complained that the shame of common talk forced her hand rather than any legal pressure. Sexual behavior was particularly controlled through gossip. Young women known to spend time alone with men quickly gained reputations that damaged marriage prospects. Court records from Canterbury in 1318 detail how a young woman named Eleanor became unable to secure a match after rumors spread that she had been seen walking alone with the butcher's son. The actual nature of their relationship was less important than the gossip about them. Men weren't exempt from sexual gossip. Those suspected of adultery found themselves mocked in songs performed at village gatherings. A record from 1340 describes how William Taylor of York was publicly shamed when young men performed a bawdy song about his suspected affair during the Midsummer Festival, with his wife and children present. Interestingly, village gossip often enforced standards different from official church teaching. While the church prohibited sex outside marriage entirely, village gossip usually only punished relationships that threatened marriage prospects or legitimate inheritance. A 1302 church court record from Lincoln shows locals refusing to condemn a couple who were anticipated their marriage by sleeping together after betrothal, despite the priest's objections. Gossip particularly controlled economic behavior. Those suspected of hoarding food during shortages or charging excessive prices quickly became social outcasts. When Miller John Chapman raised his grinding fees during a difficult harvest in 1315, village gossip was so severe he eventually restored the original price, not because any authority ordered it, but because he couldn't bear the social isolation. Number 2, when gossip turned deadly. While usually just socially painful, sometimes medieval gossip had lethal consequences. The medieval period's most devastating example came during the Black Death 1347 to 1351, when deadly rumors led to horrific violence. As the plague devastated Europe, gossip spread that Jews were poisoning wells to cause the disease. In the German town of Strasbourg in 1349, this unfounded rumor led to the entire Jewish community, about 2,000 people, being burned alive. Court documents show the accusations began as whispered gossip between neighbors before growing into a murderous mob. No evidence of well poisoning existed, just the deadly power of rumor. Witchcraft accusations also spread through village gossip networks. When crops failed in the village of Arcs in 1323, whispers began that Agnes Sampson had cursed the fields after an argument with her neighbor. What started as speculation among women washing clothes became a formal accusation before manor authorities. Agnes was pilloried and banished, all because a coincidence became gossip that hardened into fact. The most insidious aspect of medieval gossip was how it could rewrite reality. In 1338, after Thomas Cooper of Leicester died suddenly, village talk suggested his wife had poisoned him. Though the initial speculation was based on nothing but their known arguments, the gossip became so established that when she remarried a year later, the new husband found himself shunned as someone who would marry a known poisoner. Eventually, they left the village entirely, despite no evidence ever emerging. Some clever individuals learned to manipulate the gossip system. When merchant Richard Stiles wanted to buy William Fletcher's Riverside property in 1356, records show he systematically spread rumors questioning Fletcher's financial stability. As neighbors began treating Fletcher as though he were failing financially, his actual business suffered, forcing him to sell at a discount to Stiles. Number 1. Surviving the medieval rumor mill. So how did medieval people protect themselves from destructive gossip? They developed sophisticated reputation management strategies that might seem surprisingly familiar. Strategic generosity was common. Manor court records from across England show that wealthier peasants regularly made small loans or gifts specifically to build a reservoir of goodwill. When Simon Baker of Winchester was accused of cheating with weights in his bakery in 1312, multiple villagers defended him by citing occasions he had given them bread during hard times. Sometimes people used preemptive disclosure, revealing potential gossip themselves before others could weaponize it. Church court records from York in 1371 show how Matilda Fuller publicly announced her pregnancy and named the father her betrothed before her condition became obvious, controlling the narrative rather than becoming its victim. The wealthy literally paid for good reputation. Account books from the period show surprising expenditures on small gifts and ale for neighbors around times when potentially controversial actions, like expanding property boundaries, might generate negative talk. For women, against whom sexual gossip was particularly dangerous, traveling in groups provided protection. Parish records frequently mention gossip groups, not people who gossiped, but women who traveled together specifically to prevent damaging rumors about being alone with men. Most directly, medieval people used the courts to fight back against damaging gossip. Defamation cases fill court records from the period. In 1328, Margaret Smith of Norwich successfully sued 3 neighbors for claiming she had committed adultery. Her reputation was financially quantifiable. The court awarded her damages equivalent to about 3 months' wages for a skilled craftsman. Some even conducted what we might recognize as primitive public relations campaigns. When rumors circulated that Osbert Miller was diluting the flour in his mill in 1307, he invited the village elders to inspect his operations publicly. The demonstration was followed by providing free ale at the tavern, a clear attempt to reshape public opinion through transparency and generosity. Did these medieval reputation management techniques work? Were villagers truly trapped by the gossip networks around them? Could anyone ever escape the judgment of neighbors who knew too much?